My charge this morning is to give you an overview of the Perkins Act, the federal law that's governing CTE. And so we're going to look very quickly at past to present as far as educational history. You know, vocational education has been around for a long time, and it's been good. It was high school focused for a few students, and many times it was taken in lieu of academics. And it was just for a few jobs. So that back then, it was technical skills in isolation, preparation for a job, and you know, folks thought, you know, it's okay for your kid, but not for mine. But now, as you've learned in career and technical education, now it's the academic skills with the technical skills with the employability skills to help students get ready for college and career, which is the second one, and also to promote lifelong learning. So in career and technical education, we look at secondary to post-secondary linkages. It's for all students, for all careers, and we really rely on those partnerships with business and industry and post-secondary education. So when we look at the federal legislation, we're coming up on the 100-year anniversary of the granddaddy of career and tech legislation, which is the Smith-Hughes Act of 1917. And yesterday we had a conversation with the CTSO executive directors and state advisors, and they're looking to really make a big deal out of this, because really it was a vocational education bill. When it first passed, I think Representative Smith and Senator Hughes from Georgia, when this bill passed, it focused on the fields of agriculture, home economics, and trades and industries. And it was signed February 23rd, 1917, sorry about the typo, by President Wilson, Senate Bill 703, and it was effective July 1, 1917. And back then what it did is it paid for salaries for vocational subjects and for the training of such teachers. In between, there were other acts, the Morrill Acts, others, but then I wanted to pick up with the vocational, the Carl D. Perkins in Perkins 1, 1984, Perkins 2, 1990, Perkins 3, 98, Perkins 4, 2006, and we're still waiting to see when we're going to have Perkins 5. We are anxiously waiting because it was really supposed to be a 9-year grant or 6-year grant, and we're in year 9 already, and we just keep on amending it. So wanted to share with you where you can find the legislation on our website. You would look under CTE, under accountability, and if you want the electronic version under federal, that's the first link. And you know, sometimes you might need to copy and paste some of the legislation. You've got the print version in front of you, which is a real treat. I didn't know you were going to get it, but you may use that. I use that, but I use this book all the time. It's the same legislation. When Perkins 4 first was implemented, we all got this little book, and I use it, have it flagged and highlighted and all that. But actually, Title I of Career and Technical Education Assistance to the State has 3 parts, Part A, Part B, and Part C. And so you're probably very interested in Part C. But Part A should also be of interest, and Rebecca's going to talk about this. Rebecca Patterson from our Grants Administration Division, she's the next speaker, but she's going to talk more about the allotment and how it's allocated to you. But one thing under Part A that is of interest to you, I believe, is Section 113 that deals with accountability. Have you seen these performance measures? This is how your CTE program is measured. You've got the 1S1, the attainment of academic skills, reading, language arts. 1S2, attainment of academic skills, mathematics. 2S1, your technical skill attainment. How many students are taking an exam for a certification or licensure, and how many are passing. 3S1, school completion. 4S1, graduation rates. 5S1, student placement. How many of your students are going on to post-secondary, employment, going to the military. 6S1, non-traditional participation, and then 6S2, how many are actually completing the non-traditional. So this is part of how you're measured. This is part of your accountability system. That's why it's real important that when you do your PEIMS submissions that you've got accurate data. Bryce Templeton from PEIMS will be here as the third speaker this morning, but this is what you get on your grant. This is what we negotiate. You'll see it on your grant like this, and you'll see how you, your measures for the past couple years, the state measure, and we ask that you accept the state measure. Every year what we do when we submit our consolidated annual report to USDE, we negotiate our measures. And what USDE wants to see is that our state is making progress and getting up to the state measure that USDE has set for us. We're doing pretty good. We haven't had to do any kind of improvement on the state level. Now on the local district level, you know, maybe your PBMAS, you know, maybe you've been staged for some reason or other because of your performance measures. When we do report to USDE, we disaggregate the data according to race and ethnicity, as shown here on the slide, and then we also disaggregate the data that you provide to us on your students by these special populations and student categories. Now, if you ever want to look and see all of your performance measures and how you've done in past years, there's an application. It's called CEDAR, Career and Technical Education Reports, and you can have access to this. What you do, it looks something like this. You just put in your district number. You'll get your reports from previous years, and you'll see how you actually performed on all the different measures by enrollment, male, female, all the special populations. You'll see the district percentage, the state percentage. You'll see what your denominator and your numerator were, and how, so you can see how the percentage was figured. So, and then there's an explanation as to how that's figured. Sometimes we get questions, well, how did you figure out, you know, what my percentage was? Well, you can go to CEDAR and you'll have all the definitions on how these were calculated. So now in the local provisions, Part C, this has to do with your grant. What you're doing when you're submitting your grant is you're submitting what's called a local plan. That's what federal legislation says, that each eligible recipient must submit a local plan. And so you'll see that at the beginning of your grant. And some of the things that are in the legislation, I mean, exactly what's in legislation is what you'll see in your grant. We're not asking for anything that's not in the legislation. Like, say, for example, the first thing is we ask you about your programs of study, and it says right there that you have to select at least three clusters, and you have to have at least one program of study for each cluster. And so you check that, and then you'll see, I just did the headers here for just a few, so you can see that academic integration is one of the things in federal Perkins that you have to address. So in your local plan, page 134 deals with the local plan for career and technical education programs. There it tells you that there's a local plan that's required to be submitted to the agency, and here's the contents. And so what we have when you submit your grant, we have some grant negotiators. Our staff for the longest time was doing the negotiating, and then we moved that task up to our grants division. But our CTE staff is very familiar with the contents and what is required on these. So look at number 5 on your local plan. You have to describe how parents, students, academic and career and technical education teachers, faculty, administrators, all those folks, how they are involved in the development, implementation, and evaluation. Does that sound familiar? If you've already done the grant, then you've had to explain how you're going to address that in your local plan. So is Ron here? Ron, why don't you tell them like what we're looking for like number 5 when we're talking about number 5?
Okay, so what we're really talking about there is how you interact with the community in a way to improve your career and technical education program. And sometimes we think about this as your advisory committee piece. How many of you have a local active advisory council in your community? Okay, great. What you're looking for, what negotiators are going to be looking for as they go through there, though, is not just that you are identifying that maybe you do have an advisory council or you have some mechanism for interacting with the community, but they're going to me also looking to be sure that that is a way that is actually functioning. In other words, it's more than just maybe holding an annual meeting and feeding everybody, which incidentally buying your food would not be an approvable use of Perkins, but note that that did not say you cannot feed people. You never tell a bad guy you can't feed them, or you would never get into the meeting. But you want that advisory committee to be something that is functioning. You want that to be something that in the community is working for you. You want that to be something that you can call on at various times throughout the year to have them do things such as program evaluations or other functions that you find might be a necessary function to making sure that the community is involved in career and technical education. And of course, we talk a lot about workforce needs, and we talk a lot about how these pieces all fit together. And I think this is a vital junction point for our local program, our local plan, to be able to define to us how our communities are individualized throughout the state. And we often take a look at a state as big as Texas, and it's easy to realize that things are different in different parts of the state. And we can't make one plan that's going to work for every local community. So how do you know what works for your local community? You get the community involved in telling you, this is what we need in the way of educational opportunities for our young people in this community. And this is the point of the local plan, that you can be able to describe those things in some detail. And the more detail you put, probably the better off you are in this particular point.
That's right. Thank you, Ron. Because we've seen some that have come in, some local plans. They say they're going to meet to develop, implement, and evaluate CTE. Okay, that's good, but how are you going to do it? How's that going to look? How does that look on the local level? We're going to meet in the fall. These folks are going to get together. We're going to look at last year's program. We're going to, plan for the following year. I mean, there's got to be some, like Ron said, some little bit of detail in there. Okay, so you've got number 6, scope, size, and quality. You have to address how you're going to continuously improve the performance of your performance measures. Number 8, this is a good one that sometimes folks are not sure how to address. So is Dale in here? Oh, there's Dale. Dale, how about giving us a little bit about that?
Okay. This is something that's going to be critical to you, and it's not anything that's going to be difficult if you follow the rules and just try to make the program accessible to everybody. That's just the general basis for it. One of the things, I'd say, a general rule of thumb is your program, your CTE program, should look like your school. Okay? It should look like your school. You should not have pockets of students who are in your school and they're segregated out of your program. Your program should look like your school. That's a really good rule of thumb. And it should not be just compliance only driven. You've got to think about that. When you can follow the rules, that's the first thing. But the second thing is, are you in the spirit of really building a program that is inclusive and has outreach? And so one of the things that you want to be concerned about is you want to watch out for this thing that's highlighted here. Do you have, how are you going to review your programs and identify and adopt strategies to overcome barriers? Well, you probably have barriers. You probably do. That's the way things go. Those barriers can be lack of outreach. Perhaps you're not talking to all of the students. Perhaps you're not giving them an opportunity to find out whether or not they're really interested in CTE. You know that happens. You know that not everybody gets a chance to hear about the benefits of being in CTE. So what are you doing with that? What kind of career awareness are you doing K-12? What kind of outreach are you having in the community? What kind of communication are you having with parents, like Ron was talking about, to let them know what kind of program you're trying to build and that everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome. It's not just for those who have traditionally been in the program. The other thing that you need to be aware of, and we're going to hear more about this tomorrow when our folks from PGNS talking about evaluation, the assessment that your program goes through. And they look at these kinds of issues. They look at these kinds of things. And you can be proactive and build a strong CTE program that does not have gatekeepers. You don't want to be a gatekeeper. You want to have an application process, but it shouldn't be restricted based on any discriminatory basis. Everybody should have a chance to get in. And there are, and let's just talk frankly, there are those programs and those teachers sometimes who only want the best and brightest. And I was a teacher, that's who I wanted in my classes. But I took everybody. And I taught them the best that I could. And they gained, and they achieved, and they made progress. So you have to watch out for that. You need to look at the application process. On what basis are you allowing teachers and people who run your program to decide who gets in? Be careful about that. Be careful about that. And then you need to talk about making sure that the special population, that's a term you're going to hear a lot about. It's important in Perkins federal legislation. On page 97, there's a definition of, look there for a minute, on page 97, this list of special population. You have, this is your school. In many cases in Texas, with 52% of the population being Hispanic, you're going to have a lot of kids who are left. You're going to have a number of kids who are economically disadvantaged, right? You're going to have kids who are in special ed. You have to make those accommodations. You have to make this program available. It's not just compliance, it's the right thing to do. We believe in free and public education, so we have to have those kinds of things. So just be aware of that. The other thing is that you need to, you want kids to have access to high-skill, high-wage, or high-demand occupations that will allow them to become self-sufficient. They're going to be taxpayers. We want them to be taxpayers, right? We want them to be successful and not continue to be dependent upon anybody else. Just put it all on themselves. So then the last one, the other one I want to talk about just quickly is number 9. And this just goes along that same thing. That's describe how individuals who are members of a special population will not be discriminated against because of their status. So those are 2 things that I want to mention.
Okay, thank you, Dale. So on your application, sometimes we see districts that say no barriers, but yet in their performance measures under non-traditional, they don't have very much participation in non-traditional courses. So to us, that means, well, there may be some kind of barrier there that you're not meeting that performance measure. So that's one kind of little pitfall that people, no barriers, but really look at your performance measures to see if there really are some measures that are showing up under your measures. Okay, so 9, don't discriminate. Number 10, Dale talked about that one. Non-traditional. 11, you're going to have to describe how you're preparing, how you're providing guidance and counseling, and including those linkages to future education and training. And then the last one is one that sometimes districts kind of need to negotiate on this one because, well, tell us about that, John.
Okay, this one is what the negotiators will be looking for is that the district offers career fairs to recruit teachers. The district provides stipends for teachers, kind of keep them there to retain them. They offer them extra days maybe, so they can come in and work on their labs. Those are just, little incentives to keep them there. And then the other one is transition from business industry to teaching. Teachers are provided a mentor, opportunities to attend professional development, such as a new teacher conference, professional association conferences in the summer to get that professional development, attend CTSO meetings, career and technical student organization meetings, and do they support them attending or getting their certification through alternative certification programs to get that training with the
All right, well, thank you, John. So those are just some of the things that we're looking for in the local plan. They're required. And so Now, you also have some requirements under uses of funds. And from time to time, we will get questions, our CTE program staff, as to, well, can I use my Perkins funds for this? Would this be allowable, or can I not do that? And so we answer those questions. A lot of those are already in your Perkins program guidelines that go along with your grant. So what I'd like to do right now, Dale's going to take this basket around, or a bag, and I want each table to pull one of the slips of paper, and I want you to talk to, right here, Dale. Oh. Join some tables. I only have, well, let me ask you, how many required uses of funds are there? Do you know the number? 9. Okay, so we have 9 slips, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tables. And so, and we have just a few minutes, too, so we've got to get this right. And so we're going to move. If you're in a chair and you're a participant, come to the front, because we're going to move. So you can stay here all day at this table if you're a participant.
Front row. We got you on the front row up here. Come on.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention.
Okay, Dale, start passing. Okay, so local uses of funds. Somebody pick a slip of paper, and I want you to share with each other how your district meets the required uses of funds, the one that you get. You will find those in your book. Look at page. Look at page 136. That's where you'll find your required uses of funds. Together. And maybe there's something that one of the districts is doing, someone there at your table, how they're approaching one of the required uses of funds that maybe you hadn't thought of. So let's just kind of skip around, and who got, let's say, number 4? To develop, improve, or expand the use of technology. Who got number 4? Which table got number 4? Look at your slip of paper. It should have a number on there. That's y'all. Okay, somebody share how some of your folks at your table meet that required use of funds to develop, improve, expand the use of technology. And then there's some other things there like training and other things. So somebody share how y'all approach that.
I'm from a very small school. We've got about 84 and 5 in high school. This year, we're teaching a CTE math course.
Okay.
And my high school math teacher and my ag teacher are co-teaching that together.
Okay.
So it's been neat to see the integration of those two worlds come together, the CTE and the regular.
Okay. Okay, so she addressed number B about providing CTE academic and technical skills, including math and the collaboration involved. And so one thing I wanted to, since we're talking about that, you know, we have those CTE courses that meet the requirements for math or science. So those are CTE courses, and they do meet those requirements. And they always will meet those requirements. You cannot offer them just as an elective. Okay, they always have to be offered. They could meet a math elective or science elective, but they will always be for math or science credit. Okay, because sometimes that's confusing. Sometimes folks think like, oh, we're going to offer food science, but we're not going to offer it for science credit. You have to. Okay, and the teacher has to be highly qualified to do that. So kind of got off on that. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at another one. How is the district doing number 5, professional development programs and in-service or internship programs? Who got number 5? Which table got number 5? Over here, number 5 in the back. Okay, why don't you share with us something about how you're approaching meeting the professional development required uses of funds?
In my district, we do vocational training inside of curriculum all over the state. And one of our big programs is welding, for example. And we use NCCR as a certification for our students. We send our teachers to an NCCR training facility and let them observe their trainers and get caught up on current practices in the industry. And then come back and share those practices
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. And if you don't know, he's from the Wyndham School District. And in Perkins, if you look at the legislation, that's one of the required uses of funds on the state level, that we have to provide 10% of the leadership funds to correctional facilities. And so the Wyndham School District does get some Perkins funds to implement career and technical education programs. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, we have time to do one more. Anybody want to share? I'm not even going to pick. One of the required uses of funds, and something maybe innovative that your district does to meet that requirement. Okay, back here, we've got a volunteer. Which one did you get? Which number? Which required use of funds? Okay. Thank you. And that's a real good example of regional workforce needs from the Houston area. They submitted innovative course applications because there was a need in their region for maritime. There's lots of positions available. They need skilled workforce, and so they're trying to meet that pipeline there. And so just know that if there's some kind of workforce need in your region, your local area, and there's not a course already, submit an innovative course application. That's how we got those oil and gas courses now that are state board approved courses. Somebody submitted innovative, now they've been adopted by the state board, and so now those are available to anyone. Of course, it'll be those that actually have it in their region. One last thing before I turn it over to actually talking about the allocation and the funding is there is a limitation in Perkins in Section 315 that says that no funds received under this act may be used to provide CTE programs to students prior to the 7th grade. Okay. Except that equipment and facilities purchased with the funds under the act may be used by such students. So in the middle school, if you've got 6th graders, they can use the equipment, but you can't spend money on 6th grade. But 7th and 8th, you're okay. And we're talking about federal funds. We know that for state funds, you don't get the extra weighted funding for 7th and 8th grade unless they're in a CTED course. Then you do get the weighted funding for those students. All right, but we're out of time. But we'll be around. TA staff will be around if you've got questions regarding Perkins, the local plan, uses of funds, anything along those lines. But anyway, thank you very much.